What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets. We're going to be talking through this big Wednesday slate. We've got the big 2,500 for $1 million for first tonight, so that should be a fun one.
I guess I'm gonna have to be on tilt and try it.
Give it a shot. Come on, man.
I guess so.
I'm open to swap here. But yeah, so that should be a good. There's a lot of big tournaments out there. I got crushed last night. I made the mistake of playing too much Kemba, and I loved my 3-guard idea. I just got the wrong one with Kemba. I mean, Rubio and Dinwiddie obviously smashed. I also played Boucher in like 25% of my lineups, and he ended up put 60. What do you have? 65 fantasy points, and it's just the Kemba thing. You couldn't overcome that 14 fantasy point game, and there's really no excuse because I knew it was going to happen at some point with all these Knicks back, and my bad on that one for anyone out there who listened to me. So
I did it. Alex Baker. I every once in a while I really laugh at his tweets, and because he's so dry. He's so dry, like awesome. Yeah. He posted. He's like, I scored 487 fantasy points and I still didn't cash. That was basically the theme of last night.
Yep.
You had to get everything perfect.
You know, it was strange though, like in the big one, like everybody basically, I think it ended in a tie with a bunch of guys. And the weird part is, it wasn't like they were so far. Usually the winner of that versus the cash line is like 100+ points. And it was like 45 points or something. So it was really just having the exact same, the exact right guys. So it actually wasn't that big of a difference between winning and cashing, basically.
Right.
But tonight is going to be a weird slate. I mean, we're going to hear about a lot of things late. There's a lot of back-to-backs in play. It's, for some of these teams, basically, one of their last major game of the year. So it's going to be ready for some stuff. That's all I can say. And that's pretty much goes every day. But today, especially, I feel like with all the back-to-backs in play, it's a big deal. So with that said, Sheets, you ready to go game by game here and get into it?
I am.
All right, let's jump into it. All right. New York, Detroit. What have you got here? Because I feel like this is, on the New York side at least, close to a cross-off until we hear 3 guys are out.
Let me share my screen first.
I thought I put it up there. Yeah.
No, I know. I knew it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fortunately, well, or unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not going to be available for live today. I'm going out and doing something. So, which means that I'm going to probably, I can't play all that many lineups, which is probably smart anyway. I want to focus on that big one anyway. Yeah. And the good news is that I do think that a good amount of action is going to come from later games. So I don't have to worry too much about this, at least this first game. But I would say that there are 3 plays on the Detroit side that are showing up as what would be good value on slates where there weren't, late games following it. If that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And that would be Derek Walton at 3,400. Then there would be Hamidou Diallo and Luke Garza, who is fighting for, a tough position as far as good value goes. So you don't really have to play any of those guys, but those guys do rate to be decent plays. So it'd be Derek Walton, Garza, and Hamidou Diallo. And I have nothing on the Knicks.
Yeah, that's what I've got as well. I don't even know, I want to see a starting lineup before we, commit. And unfortunately, this is one we'll have before lock. Although Detroit has been getting theirs in like 2 minutes before lock sometimes. So that's been kind of frustrating. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the answer here is to try to, to maybe consider these guys. But honestly, none of them are necessary. If you specifically like one, I don't think there's any problem. I think Garza is probably my favorite, but again, takes up a center spot. So maybe you could, I don't know, Walton takes up a point guard. It's just a little weird. And then there's also the both Diallos I think are in play, but I think I'm probably going to most likely end up fading this game until we inevitably hear about more news later. That's where I'm at currently.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. Charlotte, Indy. This should be a good pace game. Sheets, what do you got over here?
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that that Brogdon is in, so they don't have to worry all too much about this one either. I will say that on the Indiana side, as usual, these guys are priced a lot better on FanDuel than they are in DraftKings. You have LeVert. I mention it only because Brogdon's out, he's going to show up. Is he's 9,100 on DraftKings, but I think under 7K on FanDuel. So that's something to keep an eye on. And all these guys actually are much fairer priced on whatever. They're softer priced on FanDuel than DraftKings. Charlotte, I'm hoping and betting on the fact that the value here is just not going to be the best. Plumlee is going to look to be like a good play. McDaniels may be a good play. You could say LaMelo, but I just feel as though that later value, or I'm hoping that later value is going to provide better than having to commit to the Charlotte value.
Sort of where I'm at as well. It would be nice if I could skip these first couple games, and Brogdon being back would be one way of doing that. The one thing is, though, that I think these guys are in play, the expensive guys who may not show up from a point per dollar perspective. I think Brogdon's in play if he plays. I actually think this is a really good matchup for him. And if he doesn't, we're going to have to consider, even at high prices. Actually, Duarte is not a high price. If Brogdon's out, I think Duarte is probably the safest of the guys you could go with. I don't know, safe is a weird word, but I also think Miles Turner could get 1 million rebounds in this game. But at the same time, and they get their shots blocked, they get steals. I just think I'm probably going to stay away from it, though. There's a lot of reasonable case to be made. Plumlee had a monster game the other night, and going up against a team that plays big, so maybe they will need to play him more minutes. I think he's viable. I think Terry Rozier, one of the Rozier, Hayward, Oubre, LaMelo tree is probably going to get there, but I just think it's probably best to stay away from this game unless we hear about Brogdon out or anybody else from this one.
Okay. LAC, Boston. One bit of important news still centers around Marcus Smart. Now, it wasn't like he had it's a major injury. I think it was a hand laceration. So I don't mean to speculate, but I'd like to think that he could play, but I don't know. If he does not, then Pritchard becomes in play, but they did a nice job pricing him up a little bit, so they made him 5K. Then you have Jaylen Brown, who for me is at an absolutely perfect price point to play him. If especially Smart is out, because I don't know how many people are really gonna. I mean, I guess people will, but that 10K flat price tag,
yeah,
I'm hoping drives people away because I do want to play this at, I would imagine, lower ownership than he could have if he was even 500 or 600 cheaper. So I do hope that Smart's out to make it a little easier on me. I don't think I'm going to play him if Smart is in, although I could make a case for that too, honestly. So I do like Jaylen Brown as my favorite Celtic. And then I've had some, I'll tell you, maybe it's not the exact right spot, but I've had some good fortune playing Al Horford. The times that I play him, he seems to do okay. And he did well in his last game. He had a couple of other 40s. Maybe it's not quite the slate for it, but as far as Celtics go, he'd be my second guy. So for me, it would be Jaylen Brown is someone I'd like to really play. I don't have to, but I think it'd be a sneaky little spend up.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like the point you're making about Brown. I don't think you're going to get a ton of ownership on him, considering, and I think if he was 9,500, you would get probably double the ownership, which, at least in terms of first look. So I actually agree with your thinking quite a bit there. I think Marcus Morris is going to be the best play on this game. I think, not in addition to him taking, having probably the bulk of a lot of the offensive responsibilities, these Morris brothers, you want to try and get them when they're vengeful, because he was a Celtic, and this is a spot where he could actually really, put up a ton of shots. Look at his numbers.
Are you sure? Are you sure he was a Celtic?
Marcus Morris, yes.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we don't get the Markeefs and the Marcuses.
I never get them mixed up. I know.
Okay.
Back to when they were in college at Kansas. I got these guys down, I think.
Okay.
Although it's always tricky to figure out which one is actually better than the other one. Now I think it's become pretty clear that Marcus.
Whichever one is lower owned, obviously.
It used to be Markieff was the better one early on, and then it was Marcus. It's been Marcus ever since then, basically. But Marcus is the guy I would be most interested in here. You could make an argument for Bledsoe. You could make an argument for some other guys here. Amir Coffey as a potential value. I don't know. It's not my style of play. I like Morris and I like the Jaylen Brown. I do want to see what happens with Smart. I actually think Smart is pretty heavily in play if he's in. And if he's out, I think that the guy we can go to instead of if Pritchard, possibly if we want the savings, is Romeo Langford. And Romeo Langford is, in that situation, should get a ton of minutes. He's going to get minutes anyway. But with all those extra minutes, I mean, he shot 2 for 9 from the field the other night, still put up 28 fantasy points. He's 3,600. So Marcus Smart's injury and Josh Richardson's are pretty large on this for the Celtics side. So I'm gonna have to wait to see what I want to do with that once we get information about those two guys. But those are my initial looks. And I don't mind Pritchard, by the way, at 5K if Smart is out at all. I think if Smart's out, we should be playing Pritchard at 5K, like without a question. So that's where I'm at on that one. You ready to
Atlanta, Chicago? You have Bogdanovich out along with the rest of the civilized world, except you have, you know, 2 of the best 3 players in, that being Trey and Capella, right? So you'd like to think that Trey is going to have to play, you know, just massive minutes. And actually, with the guys that are out for Atlanta, you'd like to think that Capella is going to be forced to play massive minutes too. And that's always been our trepidations about playing Capella. You're never really sure if you're going to get that minute ceiling, but they might be forcing him into it. You know, you got Vooch on the other side of the game, and you got both your backup centers out. I don't know. I think the Capella is a very, very strong play here, especially on a slate where, you know, you're going to have like a bunch of obviously really good value plays at center. I think that if you play Capella, you get pretty different, I think. So I do like that. So I like Trey, I like him. And as far as value goes, you know, Skylar Mays, again, is going to look to be, you know, I would prefer to have him starting. And then the guy who's showing up for me, again, like now at like almost a 7 times value is the young one every day that I don't know, Chandri Brown.
Yep.
I'm just guessing that he just got minutes in his last game. That's why he's
yeah, but I mean, that theoretically he should get more minutes in this game.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
So 30 minutes, and he didn't shoot very well. So yeah, he gets 30 minutes, you're 3,300. I mean, probably a good play, or probably at least rates to be a good play.
Yeah.
Currently doesn't show him much ownership, but I think that stuff's got to change. So for me, I mean, Trey at 11K is kind of rough, but I don't know. Maybe it's not so bad. Like these shooters are not. I mean, Bogdanovich isn't around, Herter isn't around. I mean, Reddish is around, but there aren't a lot of shooters on this team. Not that Trey needs, you know, any excuse to shoot anyway, but I don't know. Maybe 11K.
More of the offense, right?
What?
You should have to handle more of the offense. You're saying.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So Trey at 11K is a tough ask, but I don't know, maybe. So for me, Capella, Trey Young, Chandri Brown, and Chicago, I'm gonna keep on recommending Kobe White as long as he's under 5K. And that's pretty much all I have over there. Except for maybe there was a no, that was it. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't like the matchup for Vooch, but I think I'm open to that. And just on the Chicago side, real quick. The thing is, these guys' prices and the fact that they're all together keeps the ownership off them. And we just saw this matchup the other night. And what did we see? We saw DeMar DeRozan go nuts and Zach LaVine go nuts. Now, but they're not going nuts enough at these prices. Like they're good plays on
right.
You know, LaVine at getting 50 would be fine at 10K, but you'd rather probably play him on FanDuel. Atlanta's defense is awful, and it's not going to get any better today. DeMar was amazing the other night. He put up 57. He would probably be the highest level of interest I would have on DraftKings. But I don't mind the Vooch idea either. I mean, Vooch also had a big game against these guys, even though it is a tough matchup with Capella. He put up 65 the other night. Now, I would imagine that's probably not going to happen again, but it is worth, you know, noting, and you could definitely get a little game stack in here because I do think Trey is really heavily in play. That 30% usage or 35% usage could easily become 45% tonight. Cam Reddish is the other one who I think is actually probably. So I think I kind of want to play one of Trey or Reddish, just as at first look. I do like the Vooch idea on the other side a little bit at his price, but I mean, I like all three of the Chicago guys. I just don't think it is hard to judge with all of them in. And Kobe White, I think is viable, but it's really hard for him to get go off while he's starting. It's almost like worse for him that he's starting with these guys because of the usage factor. So I almost would rather if they had him off the bench. But the truth is, these other guys play so many minutes anyway. It's probably, he's definitely in play. It just he's not jumping out to me as he would if any one of those big three were out. But I do like that, and I think Skylar Mays is probably more viable today than most of the days we've talked about him, just because of the limited bodies. So that's where I stand with Atlanta. I still feel a little weird playing Skylar Mays on a big slate, but I'm open to it more today than I normally am. And I think Capella, you're right about what you're saying about the minutes and everything. It just worries me that it's just it's not been a good matchup so far this year for people, but I'm open to definitely using him. So one of Trey, Capella, or Reddish, I'll probably play in my main lineups. And on the other side, I think it's Vooch or potentially DeRozan. That's where I'm at.
What do you think of that guy, that small forward from Atlanta?
The Shanji Brown. Yeah, I think the minutes are going to make it hard to ignore him. And I just don't. I want to confirm like that he is at starting, that we're going to see the same number of minutes out of him, or just try and get at least a better idea that that's what they'll do. And I think they will. They have other guys like Malcolm Hill and Lance Stevenson. The problem with Stevenson is you're not going to get a lot of usage with Trey out there. So it's not like going to be the ball in his hands. He's a ball in your hands kind of guy. So he's going to get more minutes when Trey is off the court, but he's not going to get enough minutes overall, I don't think, to become quite fantasy relevant. It's a weird spot. All right, you ready to talk about this next one? Because this is going to be weird.
I don't think it's particularly weird at all.
You know what I'm going to say?
I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm going to tell you that I think Moran is probably going to be the highest raw points guy on the slate. I think he's going to go for the ballistic in this spot. I mean, this is like LA's Coors Field. You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. I really like him. I like Bane. I like the other one. I like Kyle Anderson. I like LBJ. And I don't know if I want to fall into this Monk thing again. This happens all the time. Like, he has a good game, then he's chalky, then he doesn't have a good game. I don't know. I don't know if I want to play that. I kind of, we had this discussion yesterday about, well, I want to play Monk, or, well, maybe I should play Carmelo. One of them. Maybe it's Carmelo time tonight when no one's going to play him. I don't know. But I definitely I think it's a tremendous spot. I definitely want to play Morant, and I think this is a game that you can stack with LeBron for sure.
Yeah, I was saying this last night while me and my family and friends were watching the Laker game. This feels like it's got blowout for Memphis written all over it. It's a back-to-back, second of a back-to-back, a Lakers team that really struggles with speed but also plays fast and doesn't play great defense. And the Lakers aren't especially deep, especially with their new rotations. And you've got LeBron and Westbrook coming off of huge minute games last night against Houston. In a game they won, but it wasn't like the greatest win ever. And LeBron and Westbrook actually played well offensively, but defensively they just left a lot to be desired. I think that, Westbrook, this is the Westbrook versus mini Westbrook, right? Like that's what Ja Morant's comp has been since he was, in any relevant basketball player in high school. He was the next Westbrook kind of guy. They are similar. It's kind of fun, the idea of playing both of them. I actually think Westbrook is going to be completely overlooked, and I love him in these games in general. It is kind of hard on the back-to-back, and it is worrisome about the blowout factor, which sounds weird because it's only a 6-point spread. I hate to say this, but if I was I don't like betting against my teams in general, but I would probably be leaning on Memphis to cover that 6-point spread. Malik Monk is going to project well. It's just a shooting reliant. I do like Monk a little bit. And he's been great, but you're really counting on him, to shoot it and stay on the court, and jump shooters on a back-to-back trip while traveling doesn't always travel that well. But they are going to they are putting the flip side of this is the Lakers putting their best foot forward with LeBron makes me feel like it's going to be harder to just run them out of the building. So the Lakers side of it is hard for me to judge. I still think taking a weird shot on Stanley Johnson just because the minutes is not the worst idea in the world. I ended up having to do a little bit of that last night, but it doesn't feel good. So I think that Monk would be my preferred value, even though it makes me nervous, the back-to-back and all. I don't think I can quite get to Carmelo, although they are playing him now. Like they're playing LeBron at center. LeBron started at the 5 last night. Keep that in mind. Like that's a big difference, and he is putting up big games. So if they're going to keep letting Carmelo go, I mean, you have to consider all these. I have Monk ahead of Carmelo right now, but I think that they're close, and I know they're different prices. And then I have LeBron over Westbrook, but I do think Westbrook is in play, and I don't think any person is going to play him. And his projection is going to rate for like 40 something, and should probably be closer to 50 tonight in this type of a matchup. I agree with you about Ja Morant. It does feel like a great spot for him. He tends to go nuts though more in games where they're threatened, like I said, and I'm a little worried this is not going to be that game. Kyle Anderson and Desmond Bane, I think you're playing one of those guys in most of your lineups. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Steven Adams. Do they take him off the court? Because they've got plenty of other guys they can play. But Steven Adams, while he's on the court, should just get 15. I mean, he should get 15. He should get a rebound per every other minute in this game for however long he's out there. So I think Steven Adams is a really good play as well if you're going to stack this game. This game is very stackable to me, but it's also a game that I just have personal worries about the Lakers running away with it. And one other thing you could do if you didn't want to play those guys, you could play a Jaren Jackson opposite, whoever you think's lower owned, Carmelo or Monk, probably Carmelo. I think that both those guys have ceilings they could hit in this matchup. They just aren't being projected as such.
I'm looking at Monk, by the way, with a like a 6.5x projection, and I'm looking at Carmelo like a 4.8. So I was presuming that Monk's going to be really, really chalky tonight. Coming off of that game last night too.
Yeah, and Carmelo on the back-to-back, who knows, you know what I mean? But the truth is, he's put up 48 and 43 the last 2 games. So he's not, he's not shy out there. He's willing to take shots, for better or worse. But so the way I have this is you have Anderson or Bane, maybe both of them is a viable, but Anderson or Bane, and you could say or Adams as well. But I think Adams might actually be a good play in addition to those guys. I think you could play Morant and Bane, or Morant and Anderson and Adams if you wanted to get into a game stack, play LeBron and either Monk or Carmelo on the other side and have a nice little 5-man. That's the way I'm sort of treating this game. It's not necessarily a stack or fade because I think I'll have at least 1 or 2 Memphis guys in all my lineups. And I think for the rankings, I think Anderson, just because the price savings help, is a little bit ahead of Bane for me, but it makes me nervous because Bane is such a much higher ceiling. But I'd go Anderson, Bane, then Morant, then Adams. And then on the Lakers, I would go LeBron, one of Monk or Carmelo. And like you said, Monk's going to project a lot better. And then I would go Westbrook because people would be my next.
Can I interest you in a guy who played 32 minutes last night? Who's 3,200 or no?
Avery Bradley?
No.
Oh.
Stanley Johnson?
I said Stanley Johnson at the beginning.
Oh, I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah, I just didn't get him on the back end. It's really like it's basically like playing Avery Bradley. But you get the forward eligibility at least. He's
only forward eligible. He's power forward.
Yeah, I know. It's fine. There's no like he can play 35 minutes in this team and put up like 5 fantasy points. He's done it. Look at his numbers so far. He's played 27 minutes the other night, put up 12, played 32 last night, put up 20.
I know you don't want to think about this, but like you said, if you think this is going to be a blowout, you think he might be in there for that.
He's on a 10-day contract and he's starting for them now.
Right.
Darren Collison will play a lot in the blowout. And so would, I guess, super sneaky. No, you don't need to do it on this slate though, I don't know. I do have some interest in Stanley Johnson. I just don't, you could squeeze him into a game stack or play him on his own, but I just don't think I think there's better value. I think we'll have better value later on, but he's probably going to end up in a couple lineups of mine.
Okay.
Miami has nobody playing.
No, they have only 2 guys that I'm interested in, and that would be Omar.
Are you sure this game doesn't get canceled?
I think it's very possible this game gets canceled.
Oh boy. I don't know what to do. She's go ahead, talk about it. Sorry.
Yeah, so I like Butler and Omar. Those are the two guys that look good for me now. I did well with Butler yesterday. He played really well for 3 quarters, and then I didn't think he'd get back in, but he got back in. He finished off the game strong as well. With all the guys out, he's going to have as much use as he feels like competing for.
Who are you talking about here?
Butler.
He's not playing.
Butler is out.
Yeah, I have him as out.
Oh, there it is. Oh, as of an hour ago.
Yeah, I mean this.
Oh, that game's gone.
They have 8 bodies that I can see, but I don't think they're counting Haslam yet. And Haslam is
Oh my God, Haslam counts the body.
He plays sometimes. He played like 12.
He's out.
He's out too for sure. Okay.
Well, he was placed in the protocols yesterday.
I look, if this game plays, you're gonna probably want to play.
You have to play them all, right? I mean,
I probably want to play 3 guys. They're gonna probably get crushed here. I mean, if you can get the early lines by the time you see this video and it's still not more than like 15, play San Antonio to cover this game. And then if it goes off, whatever. Go ahead, Sheets. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and if they do play, I mean, you have to play hero, don't you? I mean, he's probably worth $9K in this spot, isn't he? I mean, like there's literally.
Yeah.
This is it. It's pretty
much.
He put up
45 last night too, by the way.
Yeah. So I think that's what you have to do. I'd like to think that they're going to announce whether at least they're going to play the game before lock. That would be nice at least.
Yeah.
Because if they do announce they're going to play, then and all of this, I mean, they're all in play. You got to play 4 of them, or at least 3, right?
I think you need to play at least 2 or 3. I need to see if they can call somebody up. There's a lot. It's early enough in the day where they might be able to get some other bodies in there, especially. But it's a back-to-back for them on top of it too. Yeah. Like, it's. I mean, I'm just going to leave it as Miami as a team is circled for me. Like they're one of my team. Like they're one of the things you have to do tonight. Caleb Martin, I guess, is going to be the most obvious one, and Hero, and Yurt 7. I mean, honestly. But the problem is, like, if it blows out, like, do they even have enough bodies to play in the blood? And who comes off the court? Of the guys who they currently have listed playing tonight, Duncan Robinson, the Tyler Hero, probably Duncan Robinson, and possibly Yurt 7 would come off the court first as well.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, that's a whole weird situation. I don't even know. I don't even know about talking about San Antonio. Like, I would want to find run backs, and like, it's weird because all their players are priced fine, but they've got like the most healthy bodies of anybody on this. It feels like they've got like 12 guys with a minutes projection tonight. Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell. I think that I would give the edge to Vassell, personally. Just feel like he's got more of a ceiling when he gets there. Lonnie Walker might get there more often, but Vassell, because he's younger and but when he goes off, he can really put up like 35 or 40. So I think Vassell and White, along with Keldon Johnson and Podol on the other side. I mean, this whole game, I don't know. I need to see what other bodies are available. If Miami can get 3 or 4 healthy other bodies, I think we can stay. We don't necessarily have to play this game, but if they don't and this game plays, yeah, you're going to probably want 3 or 4 players from this game overall. And maybe if you're going to play 3 or 4 from Miami, maybe running back a Vassell long shot, hope he gets hot kind of a play, or maybe he gets the blowout minutes. Keldon Johnson should have his way. Derek White. I mean, remember, there's still no DeJounte Murray and Podol. All these guys are interesting. In terms of ranking them, I think I would have Vassell because of the price, and then probably Keldon Johnson, then Derek White, then Podol. But they're all good in this matchup. So
yeah, I rate Vassell and then White. Yeah, I think that this game plays and it's a big 15-point spread. I could also see San Antonio screwing around. So we'll
remember, Miami plays tough. Like, they don't often have games where it's like Miami is other obvious. Of course, Miami's going to get crushed. And when that has been the case, they've had a couple times where they were blown out, but mostly it doesn't happen. They're pretty good about that. They're pretty good.
San Antonio squad is not a squad that's going to be really just super stomping on people. I don't think. I don't know.
But they do play fast, and Miami's on the back-to-back, and they're don't have any players. So it's hard to know. Caleb Martin is definitely the preferred play in the game, though.
All right. Speaking of 15-point spreads, with value on the underdog, as far as DFS goes, Oklahoma City, Phoenix. I think all those things are true. I think Phoenix is going to be a 15-point favorite. I think that there's going to be value on the Oklahoma City side that we have to look at. The top two I have right now are Roby and Kenrich Williams. But I mean, you could talk forever about some of these guys, and you want to give Aaron Wiggins another shot. You want to give Paul Watson a shot. But if you want, I mean, just play Shea. Hope the game stays close. Play him with Shea and Roby and Williams, and hell, run it back with Booker and just hope the game isn't over at halftime.
Yeah, this game feels like it's got blowout written on. Boy, how about Jaylen Smith going from on the other side of that game, going from half percent owned to 18% projected in my initial look? Wow, That's crazy. What do you think about the Phoenix side of it, though?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think they both look okay. McGee and Jaylen Smith. Then there's also Cam Johnson, looks pretty good. These are like the value guys. So maybe Cam Johnson, he would be inclined to get some blowout run too. So I guess Cam Johnson, but I don't know. Maybe I'll take a shot at Booker here. I don't know, just in case.
Yeah, this is really a weird situation because I actually think the right thing to do is just play McGee here.
Okay.
The minutes projection, unless they're factoring in the blowout, the fact that Jaylen Smith is projected to play more minutes because JaVale McGee got in like crazy foul trouble in the last game just seems like a stupid thing to go based on. So I'm not gonna fall for it if the ownership is in fact heavy on Johnson and heavy on Smith and low on McGee. I do think that Cam Johnson has a good argument here. Campaign in a potential blowout-ish type situation, a game where he could really go off. But I don't think I'm going to probably get to the pain. I think it's going to be on the Phoenix side, McGee, Cam Johnson, then Smith for me at first glance. But the thing about Smith though is he will get the blowout run. So if it does turn into a blowout, that's what he'll get that run. But OKC on the back-to-back after Phoenix coming off a loss the other night to Memphis, it feels like a spot where we should probably be really concerned about the blowout. Actually, I know people say I hate to project blowouts. I don't hate to project them. I think it's part of the game. I don't really love the value for OKC until we hear that 3 guys are out, which will probably happen. But I don't think that any of the value is necessary. And sure, they could always get there, but there's no reason with all their bodies they have that they need to get there. Shea would probably be my favorite play on their side, but it seems very thin to me. So I'm actually okay with skipping OKC.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, Utah and Portland. What do you got?
Oh wait, let me go back to this. Yeah. So this is another one. I mean, this is another possible 15-point spread. But the guys I want to play on Portland. So it's very similar. Maybe it's not a 15-point spread. I mean, there's no Donovan Mitchell. It's at Portland. You know, maybe it's not that big of a deal. So let's play Lillard. Let's play Nance if he plays. Let's play Nasir Little. Maybe even a Simons, but probably not. Let's play all 3 of those guys, and then get Utah right somehow. Clarkson, Ingles. Those would be my top 2 guys. Royce O'Neal, Rudy Gay. I don't know. Maybe this is the game you're supposed to stay.
Yeah, I don't think you should be playing Rudy Gay.
Okay.
It's just if we're looking for value for teams that are fully healthy, with the exception of Donovan Mitchell, which doesn't really affect all that much for Rudy. I mean, Rudy Gay hasn't put up 20 fantasy points since the beginning of the month, and he can always can get to 20, but it's like I mean, if we have other guys who are going to play 34 minutes at the same price, it doesn't really make sense to me. It's not like in a blowout he's going to get like extra run or something. I am sort of surprised. Oh, it's only a 7-point favorite in this game. I thought they were 17. I was like, yeah, this is it's an interesting game. I think Royce O'Neal, if you're going to play the games close, I think you want to play the Royce O'Neal angle. I like O'Neal if the game stays close. If you're going to make a game stack out of it at all, I think that the better natural play would probably be Ingles, but I don't know if you need it. And Clarkson is extremely viable. We know what he can do without the one thing that's interesting to me is that no one, again, I'm just going to go back to this again, like no one's going to play Conley, and I think that he's like viable without Mitchell out there. And I also think that, Rudy Gobert, I keep doing the Rudy Gay thing. Rudy Gobert without an opposing big, even at a high price, is kind of interesting to me. So I think you don't need to play. None of these are must plays, but I think I would rank them Clarkson, O'Neal, if you're betting on the game staying close, Conley, Bogdanovich, Gobert. But I think Gobert could be the long shot play that actually has like a monster game. There's a lot of these spend ups that are going to be poorly projected that could all have monster games tonight because they're in great situations. And this is a great spot. I love Nasir Little. As I mentioned the other night, like I'm a very big fan of him in general. They like him a lot. They play him a ton of minutes. Assuming this game stays reasonably close, I think that's a good thing we can do. I think Larry Nance should get plenty of run tonight. I don't know how they're going to plan to match up with Gobert, but they don't exactly need to because it's not like he's going to post up and beat them. And I think Dame, I'm just going to mention this, like when Dame has those 70, 80 point games, it always seems to come against teams like Utah. So I'm very open to the Lillard as a long shot play here. But mostly I think it's going to be Little for me and then Nance. And I don't really think I need to do anything else unless I'm stacking the game.
It used to be that the Sacramento home games were like must see TV. Now it's like must change the channel TV. I think as far as DFS goes, they all seem to be priced whatever. They all project just whatever. I don't like anybody from that side.
Yeah.
On the Dallas side, Brunson and Porzingis remain in play. They look pretty expensive, but whatever. And the other guy who's showing up for me, I guess I wanted to ask you about from Dallas was Green.
Yeah, so he got some of the blowout run. He was a high pick for them a couple years back and hasn't really developed in anything. That was his first game back, and he got the blowout run, but he did have 10 assists in 24 minutes, which does sort of take away him playing, and even like just them having enough bodies, it sort of takes away from any love I could have had for Jalen Brunson probably. And I think KP and Brunson are both in play, but especially KP, he's really been hot, and I'll ride him. I mean, when he puts up games, he puts up this. You can get in the 60s. He just did the other night. The problem is I don't really have anybody on the Sacramento side that I feel like I need to run it back with. They're fairly deep. They're playing a lot of bodies. They're not really giving the reins. They did play Bagley 28 minutes last night. There's a good chance somebody could end up sitting tonight for them. But I don't know how to project who that might be right now. And at these current prices, you kind of need somebody to sit for them to be too viable. But I think Porzingis is probably my highest level of interest in this game. And the Josh Green, Ntilikina situation, I'm probably going to just stay away from that. So with all that said, we need to know about Miami, obviously.
Yep.
But I've got my priority plays as Miami, the whole team. And then you could do the run back. Caleb Martin would be my favorite player there. San Antonio run backs would be much more viable if the game plays. But if we want to do a game stack with Miami there, I think that's kind of interesting. And playing one of the Derek Whites on the other side, Vassell or Lonnie Walker, I think is interesting. JaVale McGee or Smith, but I'm actually going with McGee as my preferred play. Malik Monk, Stanley Johnson, or Melo situation. I think one of those three is probably a good play. I think Monk is going to project the best and be the highest owned. I think Carmelo on a back-to-back feels thin, but could still get there. And Stanley Johnson is just going to play minutes, but I don't know that I can't promise any sort of output from him whatsoever with the way they're out.
What I was going to ask you, since I don't know if I'm going to be around for a lot, is let's say that there's no news, whatever it is, like how much, again, it's kind of silly to ask, but how much do you like plays like Derek Walton and Luke Garza and Hamidou Diallo from Detroit side?
Well, we say that if there's not going to be informed news, but there's going to be. So it's impossible for me to judge. I guess my answer would be if the slate started right now.
Yeah.
I have mild interest in those guys, but I'd have to know who's starting, and I can't answer anything until I do. That's my.
So let's say that all the aforementioned were starting. Let's say you have Dalton, you have Walton starting, Garza starting, Diallo starting.
I don't think there. Well, would Walton start? Is he projected to start? Let me just see real quick.
We got him projected for 31 minutes, so he's got to be doing something.
Yeah, I guess he is projected to start, but they don't need to start him. They could easily be Frank Jackson. Yeah, I guess Walton and Garza would be in my mix for sure. Probably in the 20% range if the slate was starting right now, and I knew I wasn't going to get other information, but there's going to be information after lock. I also like Diallo, by the way. I mean, he's going to one who's going to have to carry the offensive load. Yeah, that's I would have. I guess I would have Garza a little bit behind, a little bit ahead of Walton, but
so none of these guys are like completely smash plays that you're going to need to have.
No, they absolutely might be.
Oh.
I can't say that. There's no way I could say that. Like you're just betting. Like Garza's a good point per minute guy. We have not seen it once from him. I'm sorry, like Diallo's a good point per minute guy too. We haven't seen it from him this year, but he could take over that spot for Garza because it's not like the Knicks you have to guard the big. But Garza's been really good point per minute, so I would lean Garza. Then it's just hard to know because there's so many games later that I would that are going to have implications of what happens. What happens with what's his name with Marcus Smart? Does that mean because then we can play Pritchard and Langford, who might be better plays? Although Garza's probably a little better. I think Garza's the one. Garza's the one I have the most interest in, and then it would be Diallo, and then it would be Derek Walton on that side. I don't think Derek Walton, he could play minutes and do nothing. I mean, he made 0 shots the other night. He still put up 19 fantasy points, but he's not like a high usage guy, especially Diallo, Frank Jackson, Garza to some extent will take over the offense. But you're probably going to want something from Detroit, though, just because they're going to need to do something. The only problem is Saddiq Bey is 7,900. That feels like a lot, but he actually probably could hit that. Saddiq Bey on FanDuel is a guy you want to play. Just put it that way, I guess. I don't know what else to say. Guy goes 5 for 16, puts up 36 fantasy points. He probably is in play on DraftKings even more than I'm saying. Because they're going to need to do something, and they're only 7-point underdogs here. It's not like they can't win this game or contend in this game at home with the Knicks on a back-to-back, who are probably also going to rest somebody.
Right.
Yeah. So I like the Garza thing as of now. I actually think I will prioritize Garza in my initial build because I'm just thinking like how good he is per minute. If he gets 24 minutes, he should put up 30 fantasy points and he's 3,500. Right. So we probably should be playing him. Anyway, I will be live with you guys at 6 Eastern. I probably won't be there for a crazy long time because I've got a couple of entries in that big one, and I'm going to have to try and put my best foot forward in that. I will answer questions as I did yesterday in chat, and hopefully some of them were helpful. I think we had the Nathan Knight situation come up. Unfortunately, he fouled out, so didn't have a huge game anyway. But it got us a little bit off of Naz Reid. I did say Jaden McDaniels was a good pivot. He had a really big game. So I'll be back there and chat with you guys after the 6 o'clock, but be with me at 6 Eastern live, and let's try and do better tonight than we did last night.
That sounds good. Are you ready for a football preview?
Yep. We'll get out of here, guys, and we will catch up with you at 6 Eastern. Good luck.